Okay, I'm Jean-Baptiste Favory. I'm a composer in electroacoustic music and concrete music. First, I want to introduce a little bit of my work, and after we will talk a little bit about musique concrète. What is it? Is it electronic music or is it another thing? And third, we will talk about my experience with the Continuum for composing musique concrète and electronic music in general. Okay, so I was working for a while with the Yanis Xenakis Center in Paris, CCMix. It was first called UPIC, Atelier UPIC, and Yanis Xenakis had made a beautiful machine. It was a board. He was architect, you know, and it was possible to draw the waves, and it was directly entering in a computer, Windows 2 or 3. It's an old machine, and the last version is Windows 95, I think. And there was a computer, and it was a digital synthesizers inside, and you can define the curve of the envelope, the filter, and all the stuff you have in the synthesizers, but with a graphical score, in fact. And in the Xenakis Center, there was also a Kima, and the goal was always for the composer to find a good interface, the good way of doing the music. And generally the problem was it was ending with the mouse, in fact, because there was nothing more than a keyboard, a normal keyboard like that, and in the studio, and nothing more. And I first heard about the IRCAM Continuum with Christophe, and I was astonished by this machine, and that's why I'm here today. So, what is musique concrète? Musique concrète is a form of experimental music that exploits an acousmatic mode of listening, which means some identities can often be intentionally obscured by or appear unconnected for their source. Pythagore and the acousmat. Pythagore had students, but there was a curtain between the student and him in order not to show his face, because he thought it was a problem for the student, because when the students are looking at his face, there will be disturb, a distortion of the discourse, the things he says. So he wants the student not to see the source of the information, to have the pure information, in fact. That's the acousmatic way of hearing something. And typically in electroacoustic music, it's that. And concrete music also. Maybe with a microphone you will record something very concrete, and after, with many effects or transposition or whatever, the sound is completely different. It's not related to the source anymore. Okay. So it can feature sound derived from recording of musical instruments. Yes, it could be like that. It could be an instrument also, the human voice, the natural environment, as well as was created with using synthesizers or computer-based digital signal processing. The good thing with musique concrète, if you can take anything, it could be concrete at the end. It depends of what you are doing with it. Because we can't say that Jean-Michel Jarre music is concrete, no. Because you always hear the presets of the synthesizers, no? So that's the difference. Composition is in this idiom are not restricted to the normal musical rules of melody, harmony, rhythm, and so on. Originally constructed with pure electronic music. based solely on the production of manipulation, electronic produced sound rather. Oh. Okay, I let you finish. My English is bad. So, yes, in France, the optic was concrete music, initiated by Pierre Schaeffer in 48, and in Germany it was pure electronic sound.
1948.
Yes, it's a long time ago. And now with computers, it's mixed. In fact, we can have both worlds in one machine. Let's talk about a little how I did my piece, which name is Le Passager, the passenger. I used the golden ratio in order to make the calculation of the duration of the parts. You've got 7 parts in the piece. Here above you can see it's not exactly a score, it's a symbolic score, in fact, which it means that it's not exactly the sound you will hear, but it's a symbolic representation of the sound I've made for this piece. And yes, we've got 7 parts, movement in this piece, which represent for me, 7 moments in life, in fact. And okay, I'm 50, so I'm here for now. And the death is there, and the born is there. So for me, it was more difficult to do this part, of course, because I don't know it for the moment. And okay, you can see also the harmonic content of the parts, and there the dynamic. It's more obvious with this system. So I took a e-analysis program. It's a free program, very accurate and very practical for analysis of the music. Touching the sound. For me, when I get to the Continuum the first time, I had the impression after a while of touching the electronic sound, which is completely new for me, because I was more like many other people who don't know the Continuum. I was used to trigger something, and then the sound appears. Okay, the Continuum, it's quite the same, in fact, technically, but it's not the same for me because the feedback is really accurate, and the delay, I cannot feel the delay, in fact, the latency. I was searching for the name. The new experience of touching sound, tonalities and noises produced in the Continuum. The continuous surface and the temperament editor in the Eigen matrix gives the ability of reaching the exact frequency you need. In electroacoustic music, we use very precise frequency sometimes in order to make some battement, I don't know, the beats, yes, thanks. So we need to know exactly what we do. But sometimes I'm using the equal temperament, but many times I'm using the pure one, because it's very practical not to have some beats. And if I want beats, I can do it with my finger. In fact, many times I did it for this piece, in fact. So I use a lot the rounding, and yeah. A new type of musical expression, no more hours of programming, glissandos, filter cutoff, or parameters available in real time. It means that before, for me, it was a pain, because I was making my noises, my sounds with the synthesizers, and after I had many hours to make it more expressive, more lively, more to put life in it, no? And now I can do it directly. So it's not a waste of time. It's incredible time I have more time for thinking about the music and not programming. So that's very important, this point for me. Touching the sound material brings a more personal character to use sound material. Yes, because the vibrato is mine, and everybody has a different vibrato and a way of entering in the sound. So that's important for me. I've got two little pieces of music for hearing, which are some movements of the piece. Possible, it's in the youth of the piece, and it's very faint sound, with many silence, and it's a sort of solo of Continuum with little things very thin at the bottom. What I found very interesting with the sound. What I found very interesting with the Continuum is the presets are incredible, because It seems like an instrument with a bow, but it's not really. It's not a violin. What is it? It could be. It could be many things. In fact, it's a new instrument which doesn't exist, and I like it very much. This idea of making chimera, hybridation between many aspects of the physical fact in the sound, and it's one of the things that made me very interested in the Continuum. It's the sound also. It's not only the surface, it's the sound. Thanks to Egan and the sound, the incredible sound. Physical modeling synthesis. For me, it's the synthesis which is really accurate for music concrete, because there's a concrete way of doing, not of doing it, but of hearing it, because there's a sonic chaotic behavior which gives you more complexity and life to sound. Yes. Sometimes with this physical modeling synthesis, you've got some error or things, unexpected things which happen, and I like it very much. This way of thinking that, yes, maybe sometimes I could have some surprise. You have no surprise with analogical normally, and less with digital DX7, for example. Which I like also, it's the invention of a non-existing instrument. As I said before, new unheard timbres and textures, hybridation, chimeras. Very accurate digital recreation of vintage instruments. Sometimes I'm making music for documentaries on TV, and it could be useful to have, I don't know, a CS80, for example. So it's possible with the Continuum. There's some very good sounds like that. Or a mini Moog for making a solo. That's possible. And on Martenot, because I like very much this machine, this instrument, and with the touche technique is really accurate, and I found I had the chance to try on Martenot, the new one, and it's very close. The feeling is quite close with the touche of the Continuum. And last, the vast programming possibilities, endless variation. For the moment, I'm not so skilly, so I can't program it. I just make modification of the presets. Then, after I give a name to it, but I can't come from scratch and doing incredible presets. It's not possible for the moment. I think it needs time to understand really, and but it's very good things for me to in the future to make my own preset. That's a project. For the passenger, le passager, I can show you the little studio I had in the country. It was not in my normal studio, and I made it in last summer in Burgundy. And I had my recorder, the sound device, which has a digital input. So I had the digital input of the Continuum entering in my mixing board via the sound device, okay? And the analog output of the Continuum was entering in the loudspeaker in my kitchen. And in the kitchen I had also a microphone, a good one. And the microphone entered in the mixing board also. And after I made a matrix of MS matrix, middle side matrix, and it gave of the sound an incredible way of of hearing, a new way of hearing the synthetic sound, because you had the dry sound and the wet was very, very big. It was entering in my kitchen. So that's the way I found to have a more lively sound, because I found that entering directly in the multi-track with the dry sound, to me, it was sounding too electronic. So I had no onde and pyramid, so I made this technique. And it's very easy to do, in fact. You can do it very easily, this way of doing it. So sometimes in my piece we hear some birds, some doors which open, or my daughter was screaming outside. Okay. One thing important I found when I was working with the Continuum on my track, on my piece, is that it was very important to give the name, because after a while I was forgetting the name of the preset I use, and sometimes I said, no, it's not good, I want to do it again. What preset what was? And sometimes it was not possible to recognize because it was in the bass or in the very, very high frequencies, and it was not evident to know what sound it was. So I was very perfectionist to note every sound. It was important. Okay, we can hear a last short piece, movement of the piece, which proved that the Continuum can also be a rhythmical machine, because sometimes I have the feeling on YouTube when you're seeing all the, and I have so many, all the demos of the Continuum, that it's always very smooth, very gentle, like that, but beautiful, subtle. But sometimes you say, could it be rhythmical also? In fact, yes, that's possible. I think I've done a little essay with that, and using the repetition of the percussion, it could be also some you can do some rhythmical things also. Voilà. Thank you. So if you have questions. Yes?
You mentioned early on in your presentation, once again, thank you very much. You mentioned an application that you used to see the analysts. Was that from Pierre Coupry?
Yes.
Okay.
It's that, exactly. Pierre Coupry is a friend. I know him since a long time, and he's very skilly to do like, and it's free.
Yeah. He's amazing.
It's amazing, and it's like Acousmograph from GRM, so but it's free. So it's a very, very good program. Yes.
I like the piece a lot. I'm wondering if how much of it was planned and how much of it was played. In other words, did you know what you were going to play on the Continuum before you played it, or was it very much more experimental than that?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Yes, when you were playing on the Continuum, had you written out what you were going to do? Did you have an idea of what was going to happen?
Tu savais ce que tu allais jouer avant ou est-ce que c'était
In fact, I had all the duration before composing it, and I knew the mood of each part because it was part of my life, in fact, of life. So it was very helpful for me to make a concept of each part. That's why there's some titles of the parts. Étonné, astonished. Yes. The beginnings, les commencements. Possibles, les possibles. Sur le sable, on the sand. When you and all that little poetical title helps me a lot for composing, yes. And after, in composition, there's always a part of improvisation, of course. So I'm searching a sound on the continuum which correspond to the mood of the parts, and I'm searching the good rhythm, the good pitch, and after I'm cutting and working on it. And there's many tracks. Yeah. Yes?
How did you come up with the beautiful image on top of the graphical? The white
Oui.
part on top?
Mm-hmm.
How did you design the...
It's a symbolic graphical score I made with my hand.
It's beautiful.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. That's important for me because in music I see forms, I see drawings. I'm not using notes, in fact. I'm using forms. Yeah.
Have you heard of the book, I think it's called 21 Notations? It's a beautiful book about graphical scores.
No.
It's inspiring.
Okay.
It's a beautiful book, yeah.
I don't know it. No.
Yeah.
If you ever have a chance to see a copy,
Yeah, sure.
you'll find it quite inspiring.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Were all the sounds Continuum in that?
80%.
80%.
Yes, something like that. Because, for example, in the piece we just have heard, there's also an harmonium, an old harmonium I have in the Burgundy, which is an instrument you can play with the foot for the air. And I played it, but rhythmically, with the foot like that.
I heard also what sounded like a brass and wind ensemble together and kind of in the background.
Yes.
What was that?
That's come from virtual orchestra, Garitan. And also I've got I had used this little cheap Yamaha GM MIDI generator sound, no more than that, and a portamento, but very, very smooth portamento, like that. Yes?
Can you go back to your score? Can you talk a little bit about how you interpreted some of those symbols in your playing of the Continuum?
Mm-hmm. Here, the sound of the beginning are very, very long and thin frequency, which with glitch and shift, it's moving down and up. So I try to represent it more in the second part. And here it's more my voice and the continuum was increasing. I don't have the sound here, but you will hear tonight. It's beginning. The piece is beginning with my simple sound, and then all the harmonics are arriving.
So, for example, the second section, commencement, you've got some parallel lines that are waving, some going down, some going up. So you're playing down in frequency when it trims down.
See,
So
yes.
So you're saying the pitch, that's telling you for a pitch change that's waving, but
There are glissandos.
yeah. But they're chords if there's more lines.
Yeah. I did it. This part is full of continuum.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so you recorded, say, one part first, and then use that as the timing for the other part?
There's many tracks.
I mean, but how did you, once you have one track down, did you then go and look at another part of that section and use the timing on the first one as a guide for the changes in the next one?
Là, je comprends pas. Est-ce que tu peux me
Quand t'avais fini d'enregistrer la première piste,
Oui.
est-ce que tu regardais, est-ce que tu revenais à ta partition et est-ce que tu utilisais la première piste comme guide pour les changements sur la
Absolutely.
prochaine piste que tu allais enregistrer?
Oui. Absolutely, yes. I had in the ear, in my headphones, or I had
So you just build on it?
the guide. See all the
Mhm.
things. Yeah.
The solo sabla part, you did that using Ed's patches?
Bells.
Ed's sounds? Or did you create many sounds of your own?
C'est les sons de...
No, it's the presets.
It is the preset.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I had the continuum since a very short time. So,
Yes.
as I said, for the moment I can't program. I don't. I need more time.
I didn't recognize a lot of that.
That's incredible with this instrument.
One comment.
Things you never imagined.
One comment. I was just about to say thank you for finding so many nuances. The deep sound you were using sounded somehow familiar, and then I realized it was one of my contributions to the firmware. Usually I bet this applies to Ed as well, because when you design something, sometimes you feel that you need to provide instructions about how to play to extract all the kind of possible nuances you can get, and I was very happy when I heard that you had figured all of those out in your playing. So thanks for that.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Back to Pierre and the analyze. He actually designed. We talk about the EMS with the matrix with the continuum.
Mm-hmm.
There's another continuous reality because Pierre created
Le synthé.
a synthé back in like 2001, 2002, and
Mhm.
I was corresponding with him. But the last main question is, where do we find your music?
My music.
Your music.
I've got some CD
Okay.
there if you want, and on internet you will find it quite easily. I've got a website, so you type my name and on Google, and
Okay.
you'll find it.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you.
The bottom line, the graph at the bottom, was that a line that you used to plan your dynamics, or was that the way they came out after the fact?
No, it's after the fact. Yes, that it's the result of my composition, and it is the result also, but it's more symbolic. It's It's a way for me to mix the technical and poetical aspect of the music. For me, it's always important to have a poetical view also, in order to dream of music also. It's important, I guess, to keep the dream. Yes?
So I imagine you place the microphone in the kitchen so that when you're playing, you could have what you felt was a more acoustical experience. with the sound. So, did you find a need to modify the placement, or you found that once you had it set up, you could react to it, or did you change it at different points in time?
I made some essays for rehearsal, and I found it was very impressive when I was very far from the source, in fact. So I placed a good mic, like a Neumann. It was a Sony, but it was a clone of Neumann. And in omnidirectional. So it was very far from the source, and it gave some more interesting space. It gives hair, in fact.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so after the fact, you could use your MS decoding to decide how close or far the sound was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and many times I'm mixing.
Oh, during
I
a
think
part of
it's
it. Yeah.
without MS.
Ah.
It's called
Yeah.
all that part without MS, and here it's the MS side,
Ah, yeah.
middle side, mono.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the middle side, the technique, MS technique, is very impressive to keep the mono compatibility. It's perfectly, it match perfectly on the faces, no problem of faces. And it's very impressive, very immersive sound. I like it.
And it makes sense that you would choose a reverberation part that was at the maximum end, because you always had the direct. So now you can mix
Sure.
between the two extremes.
And have the direct too close could be a problem with the faces,
Yes, yeah.
the phase.
Yeah,
So it was better to have 5 meters, something like that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big kitchen.
Oh, it's in the country, we have space. It's not like in Paris,
No.
where I live in a tiny place. Oh.
Was your kitchen filled with sound when you recorded this, or was it just a small amount of a volume that the speaker produced, or was the kitchen really filled with sound?
It was quite strong,
Okay.
the sound in the kitchen. Yes.
Yeah.
My family was not there. No. I was alone.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's important to be yes. Okay. Thank you. Merci.